Hello everyone. Tiny Church is a non-profit online ministry that encourages and empowers people to develop programs to better their community. In addition, we deliver a bi-weekly service through Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, Twitch TV, and Instagram. These services consist on a brief interview with a guest, a brief message, and music. Today, my first guest is none other than Pastor J. Cave, bringing us a wonderful message about service. My second guest is BJ Andryusky, founder of the Time Bank in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you don't know about time banks, you'll love this interview. And last but not least is my musical guest, Mr. J.D. Earley, performing for us one of his own compositions, a song entitled Lazarus. So let's go all the way to Taipei to listen to Pastor J.
Hello. Eddie was nice enough to ask me to do a little message for you on the subject of service. And I wanted to take it from an unusual source, really, Isaiah 40, 30, and 31. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. So I want to take a look at that word wait there. And I'm reading from the New King James Version, but the New Living Translation says wait as trust, or the NIV says hope. The Amplified Bible says to look for an eager expectation. And you know the history of this passage is kind of interesting. Isaiah was a prophet in the 8th century BC. It was a time of great tumult, a time of great insecurity for Israel because Assyria was getting ready to take Israel into slavery and they were being threatened. So, Isaiah the prophet was speaking comfort to the words of the people of God, saying that if you will indeed wait on the Lord during this time, wait on the Lord when you are scared, or wait on the Lord when you are insecure, or wait on the Lord when you are afraid. The promise is that you will renew your strength, that your youth will be restored, that you'll walk and you'll not faint, you'll run and you'll not be weary. It's a great promise. So you're asking yourself right now, what does that have to do with service? Well, I've always thought this word wait is sort of interesting, really, to sort of wait in eager expectation. So what do we do when we're asked to wait on God? And I kind of like to look at it in the perspective of a period in my life where I had the most difficult job in the world, I think, is waiting on tables. I was a waiter for many years after I graduated from college, waiting to go to the seminary, and that was a very difficult job. And in order to wait on a table effectively, you have to pay attention to what they need, and you have to essentially serve them. You have to lean into their needs, lean into their wishes. You have to be alert about what they want. And so I've always thought about this passage as Isaiah commanding us that as we are in times of trouble, or as we are in times of insecurity, if we will continue to eagerly, sensitively, intelligently serve the Lord, that God will indeed in time renew our strength. So my question to you is, where are you waiting on God? The question is not really, what are you waiting for? But the question is, who are you waiting on? So where are you waiting on God? Or in your sphere of influence, who are you serving? Who are you eagerly paying attention to? Who are you taking care of? No matter what's going on in your life, I do believe that the Word of God for us today is to continue to pay attention to those things that God puts in our life that need to be served. And as we continue to serve, then our youth is renewed. We shall mount up with wings like eagles. We shall run and not be weary, and we shall walk and not faint. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you so much for every person within the sound of my voice who would understand that they're being called to wait on you, not only just hanging out and waiting to see what you do, but they're being called to serve those that you put in their sphere of influence. No matter what we're going through, Lord, if it's times of blessing, prosperity, or if it's times of insecurity and fear, we do believe that the Word of God calls us to pay attention to everything that you place into our lives and to determine how it is that we can best serve. That's what you did for us. And so, Lord, I pray that you would bless us as we have the strength to serve. Bless us as we have the courage to serve. And bless us as we receive the promises that you give us, that our strength will be restored and that our youth will be renewed, Father, that we'll walk and not faint. Thank you so much for these great promises. Be with Eddie and his ministry. I pray that you prosper him. I pray that you would be with all those pastors in the churches in our world, Father. Be with the churches overseas that are struggling, churches in our country that are struggling. Be with those that are growing, and I pray that you would continue to bless us, Lord. We love you. Give us your peace in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you.
Hello everyone. Tiny Church is a non-profit online ministry that encourages and empowers people to develop programs to better their community. We also encourage individuals to spot a need in their community and meet it. In addition, we deliver a bi-weekly service through Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, Twitch TV, and Instagram. These services consist on a brief interview with a guest, a brief message, and music. So welcome to Tiny Church. Today's topic is the question, what are you doing with your time? We just heard a message from Pastor Jay Cave about serving, and one of the questions raised was, who are we serving? As I was thinking on ways of getting people involved on being of service to better our communities, my friend JD told me about Time Bank. I was intrigued, so I had to find out more about it and share it with you. So today, we have the good fortune to interview BJ Andryusky.
Andryusky, short
Andryusky.
Andryusky.
This is BJ Andryusky, the founder and main coordinator of the Time Bank in St. Petersburg, Florida. BJ, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
And so what is Time Bank?
Time Bank is a method of exchange where services are valued equally. So if you have a service you want to offer, you offer that to somebody and they pay you a time credit. And then you can turn around and use that time credit for another service that has nothing to do with the value of what you and I shared. So the value is in the time. Your time just as valuable as mine or anyone else's.
Okay, all right. And you can go from one, if I do a service for you, I get credit.
For the time that it took.
And then I can use that credit not necessarily for you, but with somebody else.
You are not obligated to do anything with me whatsoever beyond what we agreed to for the service. And then the agreement is that I pay you for your time in a time credit. So if it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, if it's 15 minutes, so you get that credit. No money exchanged it, and then you can use that credit somewhere else.
Oh, great.
For instance, I could come pull your weeds, right? And the hour that I pull your weeds, you pay me 1 hour time credit. And then I could take that hour and go get a massage. So you think of pulling weeds and getting a massage, different value, right? But in the Time Bank, it's the same. Or I could go get acupuncture, or I could go get a consultation from a doctor.
Oh, okay.
So there's a big difference.
You can be a brain surgeon and wash a car.
And the value is no different because the time for the brain surgeon is just as important to their lives as it is for the person who's doing landscaping or weeding or sewing or mending or
great.
Great. Babysitting. Time is the value.
So why was Time Bank created?
Oh wow, created here in St. Petersburg or in general?
Both.
Oh, phew.
Let's say in general.
In general, Edgar Kahn, we call him the father of time banking, And I'm not a person that knows statistics and dates and all that very well, but he was debilitated by a heart attack and was laying in a hospital bed. And I mean, going from law student and just this speechwriter for Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very influential man. And now he is in the bed with a massive heart attack where I believe it was 80% of his heart was ruined. And they said that he would only be able to work at like maybe 20% capacity of what he used to do. So he's laying in the hospital bed, and of course, being the social activist that he is, he's thinking about throwaway people. You know, how people, we tend to throw them away.
Be disposable. Yeah.
Right, that they're disposable. And he wrote the book No More Throwaway People. And he, it's my understanding that he formulated this idea from that experience so that people could kind of co-produce their own health, their own lives, their own, you know what I mean, that they could be involved with making their lives better. I hope that's a good synopsis.
Oh, no, that's great. No, you know, yeah, because I myself have witnessed, I've been a minister for many years. And I've noticed a lot of times there's a disconnect between the church and the community.
Yes.
In my opinion, and I may be wrong, and nobody take offense to this, but this disconnect is severe, and churches, especially small churches, are becoming like private clubs. You know, now there's nothing wrong with that, you know, but I mean, I believe that there can be more of a service to their community rather than, I mean, you don't have to go to Africa or
right. It can be done right
you
here
know,
at home.
It can be
done right
2
here
blocks
at
from
home.
here. There's a lot of stuff
across
that we
the
need.
street.
Yeah,
across the street from where
you
we
know,
are.
and what I was thinking too was the lady across the street from me. You know, she got ill and she needed somebody to do their yard. You know, and I noticed that. You know, so I since there are laws and people sue each other and stuff like that, it's kind of, I guess people are afraid.
Yes.
And but I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, is it okay if I do your lawn?" You know, and she was like so happy. You know?
Right.
And funny enough, I was happier.
Yeah. From the
know,
giving.
It was such a, and I'm like, we should do this. You know, the garbage truck drops something
Bag,
from the garbage or whatever, and it's not yours, but you saw it, pick it up.
And so this is one of the concepts for time banking, because those are neighborly favors, right? Those are things that in a perfect world where we didn't have fear of being sued or, you know, litigation was always hanging over our necks because of whatever, that we would be doing for each other, you know? And if you take us back 100 years ago, it's what we did for each other. And we've forgotten it in our urban, you know, busy lives, in our city lives. And so those neighborly favors, it's one of our core values that we redefine work. So that is work, and we value it, and it is, quote, paid for.
Yeah.
So, and or helping somebody who's sick, or, you know, whatever builds community, then that's valued in the time bank.
Absolutely.
And not the stuff that's valued in the core economy, you know, because you can go buy those things. There's some people that can't. So we have some people that give those services too. But in general, I mean, can you imagine being paid for taking somebody out to coffee, talking to them? Time banker, we could get paid for this right here. Credit goes into our bank.
Yeah, that's amazing.
For this kind of work. So.
And let me share a story with you. I was a youth pastor at this church, and this lady came up to me, and she was very lonely, and she was incredibly needy. You know, one of those people that are super needy and whatever. You know, but she kept saying, you know, we should do some. I don't exactly know what she said, but all I knew it was about loneliness.
Yes.
You know. So I spoke to the senior pastor, and we said, hey, you know, let's do something, you know. And he kind of said, like, oh my God, she's such a
needy person.
Right. You know. I mean, she just won't leave me alone. And I'm like, well, how about if we ask them to do her own thing? So I said, listen, if you're lonely, there's probably other lonely people out there. So why don't you do do a Bible study around there,
Right,
and
right.
announce it and stuff. Unfortunately, the church wasn't very. She did it. She was excited about it. No one showed up to her thing, and tragically, the next time I went on the road because I'm also a musician.
Mhm.
I went on the road, and when I came back, tragically, she had died.
Oh,
And that-
loneliness kills more people than diabetes.
And that always stayed with me.
Yeah.
Angela was
Yeah.
her name, and I always went like, I could have asked her, hey, you want to come walk with me in the park? When
Right,
I went, I
right.
could have just said like, hey, you need some from the grocery store.
But see, this is a perfect example to where we can take people like that and help them co-produce their own health. So we say to her, okay, let's meet for coffee. And
Yes.
somebody pays somebody a time credit. They exchange the time credit for that coffee exchange, and then we find out some more of her needs, and she gets involved with the community, because what was missing there is she didn't build a community.
Yeah, and it's and again the disconnect of the church.
Right,
That
right, right.
maybe she didn't fall in the clique.
Right.
Of
Right, and there's bound to be people that get along with people better than other people, and I understand that.
Yes.
But I wanted to address too the neediness, because in the St. Pete Time Bank, we've been taught it's better to give than receive, right? At least I was, and it was ingrained in me, and so I didn't ask for things that I needed because it's better to give than receive, right? And I should be giving, not receiving. In the time bank, we value them equally, because that's another core value, reciprocity. Reciprocity is like a two-way street, right?
Yes.
Reciprocity is a give and take. Well, every exchange has two parts. It has a receiver and it has a giver.
Yeah.
So even that person who might be receiving more often than giving, it's like, well, they need it. Right?
Yeah.
So let's do what we can to meet our needs. What we tell people also, do what you love. So it has to be what they love to do,
Yes.
with that person. Because
Yeah.
if we love what we do, it's not work.
Yeah.
It's easy. But so we don't separate the giver from the receiver. They're both valued equally.
And you know what? It's interesting for a sociological or psychological point of view. What you're mentioning is sometimes in relationships, there's the wife or the husband may one be giving more
Right,
or
right.
less or whatever, and even financially, but I'm not comparing either way. All I'm saying is that there's a need to contribute,
Yes.
and when you're not contributing, contribute. When
Contributing.
when you're not
Yeah.
contributing, the whole arrangement falls out of ethics.
Right.
Kind of, there's an imbalance,
Right.
and the
right,
person can actually start feeling inferior
Right. Yes. Yes.
and depressed.
right.
And I mean, and show me a depressed person. Usually, they're not contributing
Right,
to their
right,
to
right.
their. To
But
their
in this case, those time bankings in those situations, the person is contributing because
exactly.
they're exchanging time for the service,
That is awesome.
and then they
a
get
great
the time and they can use it somewhere else.
So anyway, so you found out you founded St. Pete.
I found out about the time banks through Tampa Bay Time Bank, actually, which is larger in numbers and in geographic region. They cover they're geographically diverse, and found out through them, and I was active with them for 2 years. And then there was a point to where it was like, you know what, I don't want to drive to Lutz.
How long has Time Bank been in Tampa?
In Tampa, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe
Okay,
8
so
years? Maybe 8 years. We're 2 years old.
Okay, so you
And I
founded
think-
Time Bank
yeah.
2 years ago.
No, I founded this time bank 2 years
St.
ago.
Pete, yeah.
But I think the time bank is Tampa Bay Time is 8 or 10 years old. But I didn't want to go to Lutz to pull somebody's weeds. I didn't want to go to Clearwater to iron somebody's clothes. I wanted to build a community around
Yes.
me so that, God forbid, if the bridges were gone from a hurricane, I had people around me that I could go to for help, and we could help each other. So I wanted my community to where I could ride my bike.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
and then there was other
know.
people saying the same thing. It's like, we need one in St. Pete. So I went out on a limb and thought it's either going to work or it's not, and it's working very well.
It's funny. It's like the opposite of what I'm experiencing, because Tiny Church is a church online. We don't have a building.
Right.
We just and I tell people, it's like, well, but I don't live by your community, and it's like, no, I'm trying to encourage you to do something in your community.
Right.
I'm already taking care of my
Mine,
community.
right.
So it's kind of like the opposite thing. So for the people that just joined in right now, what would you say, why Time Bank? I know it may be redundant, but...
No, but why Time Bank? Number one, why not? You know, number two, it's a way for me to have my needs met without spending my cash, so that I can get services, exchange services from people that love doing what they love to do, and I don't necessarily have to pay for it, which allows me to be able to pay my mortgage and my car insurance and all that. It frees up, you know, some cash for that. And it's just the community that is built when you sit with somebody and really get to know who they are, is beyond words. Going back to hurricane, you know, last year we had the terrible threat of hurricane, and I looked around my backyard and I was like, wow, I have too many projectiles. This is going to take me too long to put away. My partner was in northern New York, and I called out to the Time Bank and I said, I need help. I need help. And so because of the community and the exchanges that I've been doing, and some people you gel with, some people you don't, but the people you do, you know, you do exchanges with, and then you reach out and see if you can meet somebody new. And 20 man hours was in my backyard and got me ready for the hurricane in one day.
Oh, that's great.
And it was done. It was done. So I didn't have anything flying off.
And they get all this time
into the and they got time credits into the neighbor's yard and damaging their window, you know. So
now, where did Bank Time originate? I mean, I know that you mentioned
Time
the founder.
Bank. I can't answer that very well. I can point you to the book. You know, No More Throwaway
so
People. No More Throwaway People.
Can
and
you
also,
repeat the author's name?
Edgar Kahn, C-A-H-N.
Edgar Kahn.
And then also Time Dollars. But I mean, it stems way back from the cooperative days of cooperative childcare, where everybody came and helped. It's kind of that type of a thing moving forward. But yeah, I'm just not good with the dates and facts.
No, it's fine.
I'm a boots on the ground kind of girl.
So now, how did you personally get involved?
I had a friend who was in the Time Bank, and she's like, BJ, you got to get involved. You got to do this thing. And she was what I called the barter queen. So this woman, a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, had most of her needs met because she asked. You know, she would say, well, what are you going to do with that? And they go, oh, it's going to be given away. And she's like, I would love it. And I'm like, how do you get all those things that I'm paying for? I'm working in a corporate job, I'm working hard, and I'm paying for the stuff that she's getting for free, you know? And she says, come to the Time Bank. It's like a whole different thing. It's not barter. We exchange time instead of value, you know? And so she's the one who got me in.
Oh, wow.
And then we kind of became the dynamic duo and made things crazy in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, I was actually, I wanted to do the service about the service about service.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and we had J. Cave just deliver a message about service, and as I was booking the musician that's gonna play a song in just a little bit,
in just a few minutes,
he told me about Time Bank. He's like, hey, have you heard about Time Bank? Because we were talking about service, and I was like, no, you know. And it's funny how God works, because within 20 minutes that he told me, I knew somebody that trains for you.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Megan.
You know, yeah, Megan.
Yes.
So within 20 minutes, I had your phone number, and we're like,
boom,
oh,
boom,
you know,
it just
boom,
happened.
boom, boom. You know, so I'd love to partner with you on these things.
Yeah, that's cool. Everything falls into line all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really does.
So how big is it? How big is Time Bank?
Well, I don't usually talk about the numbers because let's say I said it was 12,000 or 1,200. That would be really impressive, right?
Well, actually, I'm more interested on geographically.
Oh,
like,
geographically, St. Petersburg, the city of St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg.
We do have a new outlying time bank in Dunedin.
Okay.
Okay, so they're starting a group there, but with the idea of keeping everything cohesive, we wanted to be St. Pete. Now there's Gulfport and there's South Pasadena and the things that touch St. Petersburg, you know. But
they're part of your bank.
I actually have a friend who lives in Bushnell, which is way up the road, but she comes to St. Pete to work and she does exchanges every week. So we are a St. Pete time bank, and we expect that the exchanges are going to happen here.
But what about other states have it?
Oh my goodness, it's all over the world. It's in New Zealand, it's in Korea, it's in the UK. It's actually working in the government in the UK. It's in the health systems. It's all over the United States. 500 and some, maybe more. Again, I should have looked up some facts. I should. You guys can Google some facts.
And where can they do that?
They can go to timebanks.org, which is
so time banks, plural.
Plural, TIMEBANKS.org, and that is one major company that works with time banks. And there's also another one called Our World, HOUR World.org, and those are the two largest organizations that work with time banking that I'm aware of. And there's many others, but those two organizations have huge directories of people that use their software. Okay. So you went to timebanks.org and found St. Pete, and then if you went to ourworld.org, you would have found Tampa Bay Time, but you just happened to Google.
Yeah. And what about, how do you become a time banker?
You fill out a little teeny thing that's just like what? Name,
yeah, it's
email
kind of like
address.
filling out a Facebook profile or
yeah,
something.
yeah, but the first step is just like a 3 or 4 piece form, and then you get entry to the software. You can do a few things, you know, while you're waiting for an orientation. We make orientations mandatory because we want to be able to look everybody in the eye and talk to them about the concepts and explain the difference, that it's not barter, it's not volunteering, it's not charity, it's not all these things that they think it is, so that we're all on the same page. And at that point, it's either going to work for you or it's not.
Yeah.
If you're interested, then you know you can get your account activated after orientation. And but another one of our core values is respect, and that's a big reason that we do eye to eye with everybody, so we can go, you know, respect is really important to us. And if there's ever an issue where you have an exchange with somebody and there's not respect, it's like we really need to know about it. It's not like we're not going to go, now listen here, you know, but we need to know, because we're building a community that we can rely on and trust in time of need. And so, you know, those values that we hold dear are very, very important to us. Can I go through them quickly?
Sure.
Assets, everybody is one.
Okay.
Everybody is an asset. We are an asset-driven community. Redefining work, we talked about that a little bit. We value what money does not.
Okay.
We put value on what money doesn't. Reciprocity, which is that two-way street, you know, and also that I need to look at my own life and account in the software, make sure I'm giving and receiving, not just take all the time, or like a lot of people do, give, and then they burn out. So we ask people to do both. Community, which is built when we do this work together, we build a community, and then respect. Those are our 5 core values. And so we talk a little bit more in depth about those at an orientation, and then
I'm going to the orientation
Tuesday with Megan
Tuesday at Cava.
Yeah.
Cava. So if
Cava,
anybody's interested,
Grassroots Cava Bar. Yeah.
It's in Central, right?
It's on in the 900 block on Central. I don't know the exact address. But
yes, Cava Coffee is right there in the corner.
Grassroots Cava.
And it's at 7. Look it up.
Look it up on our website. Look it up on our website, stpete.timebanksplural.org. Or if you can't remember that, just stpetetimebank.org, because I bought that domain just so I could point people to the right place.
Yes, you know, so yeah, I'll be there for my orientation. And because I really want to partner with you guys on that. It's very hard.
And we can look at things. Individuals can just sign up and go. Organizations, we like to do a little bit more talking about what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, and see how time banking fits. But as you join individually, things will start ticking, and you go, "Oh, I can do this." You'll get your own experience.
Yeah, I did. I signed up with both.
I
put tiny church and then me.
But as an individual, as you begin to time bank, which is required, you know what I mean? If you're going to join, we don't want you to just sit over there. We want you involved. You'll get ideas on how to make it work for the organization as you get experience in the individual exchanges.
Now, for instance, let's say that I have a bunch of college students getting there. See, I'm working on a study program for my community, where kids after school will come to this church, and there'll be volunteers helping them with their homework, helping them how to read, whatever they need be. Now, these volunteers come from Edgar College, and a lot of them, they're gathering their community hours that they need for whatever they're studying. And would they be able to time bank?
As long as they're 18. Right now we have 18 or older, and so if they're in college, they would be. So they would, if they were a member, if they joined and went to an orientation, they could get time credits for doing those mentoring sessions, and then they could get their bicycle fixed with the time. Yeah.
I just found a BOGO. Buy one, get one free for college students. So this thing is worldwide.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And they actually did in the schools in D.C. Edgar Kahn did that in the school system because he's headquarters in D.C. And the 5th graders were tutoring the 3rd graders in math and reading. And then the exchange credits that they got from the tutoring, they exchanged for computers that were given from somewhere else and needed to be fixed, and somebody fixed them, and then they were available for the students to
Now, these are
purchase
services, like, for instance, how would it work with something like an Airbnb? Like, somebody wants to stay with you.
Airbnb is a little bit different because it really doesn't take me 24 hours to have you there in that room. So it becomes a little bit of a negotiation between the person.
So that's not something that you
No,
can
it's something
time
that we can do. I stay in Kent, Ohio, at the Kent Time Bank for time credits every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we just negotiate because it's like I'm only going to be there 4 days. It's like, how many time credits do you want? And what Abby Greer of the Crooked River Alliance of Time Bank says to me is, how long would you work in the community to pay for this? Because it's really recording work.
Yeah, okay. So
it's like,
so now when you open your account after you are at 0 time hours, right? So you gotta do some service to acquire.
Well, this is the way we think about it, and these are the things that are different with every time bank. May be different with every time bank. In St. Pete Time Bank, we don't worry about the other side of 0. We don't call it negative. It's not a deficit. There's no NSF fees. You're not overdrawing an account. It just happens to be on that side of 0 instead of this side of 0. Because remember, giving and receiving are both valued equally.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter which one I use first. Now, you get time for going to the orientation. You get time for doing your profile. You wind up having 3 to 5 hours anyway. But if you get in a situation where you're at 0, it doesn't matter. Because if you're at 0 and you need somebody to pick you up because your car broke down, they came and gave you that service and took you to where you needed to go, right? And the work happened.
Okay, so
and all we're doing is recording the work.
Okay, so you're just recording the work rather than an exchange from person to person.
Well, it's an exchange from person to person, but what we're recording is the work that was done. Okay. And the work that was done we redefined because taking somebody out for coffee and getting to know them is work in the time bank. Doing a random act of kindness is work in the time bank. You know, being neighborly is considered work in the time bank.
Okay.
All those things that we value, that the core economy. If everybody stopped
doing, getting credit right now.
You can get credit for this right now. Yes, as long as you show up to your orientation.
Yeah.
But the things that the core, if we all stopped doing all this stuff, nobody could go to work.
That's true.
Nobody could go to work. I think it was Finland. All the women, because in their country then, it was the women that stayed home, they stopped. Everybody stopped. And the country was crippled.
Wow.
So if we all stopped doing these loving, beautiful things for each other, everything would stop.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So yes.
Let me see. So if you can repeat for anybody that maybe just jumped in, how to get involved in Time Bank.
Go to stpeteTimebank.org. That's the easiest way to remember it, and then we direct you to the right site. Fill out the little join form, and then look online and see when the next orientation is. We have 3 of them a month here in St. Petersburg, and we have 2 of them each month in Dunedin. So there's 5 every month. And if you cannot get to any one of those because your schedule is crazier than crazy, then we will actually do a one-on-one with you as well.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Anything you want to share, like a funny story or something profound that happened to you in Time Bank?
Well, I'm gonna talk about profound by talking about the ridiculous. I told you that I was raised to not ask, right? I was raised that giving is better than receiving, and I really had a hard time with that in the Time Bank because I'm a giver. And so I had to flip it, because if I look around at everything that needs to be done, if I just got off my fanny, I could get them done, right? So I really don't need the help. It's just I want the help, you know, and want the need. It's like, yeah, want is greedy, need is, you know, whatever. So I had to flip it around to, what do I have in my home that I could pay someone to do for me or with me? And I had a bunch of embroidery threads that were given to me, and they were on pegboard, so stacked up. They were like this tall, and I needed them to go into that cupboard that was very small. So I thought, okay, I'll pour them all out on the kitchen table. I'll get little cubbies that fit up in the cabinet, and we'll sort them by color. Now, I could do that myself, right? But I called a woman. She came over. We basically had coffee and got to know each other. And she is a very, very valuable woman in my life. All of the threads I could show you, brown, green, yellow, blue, red, they're all organized, so when I want them, I can go get them. But that exchange really demonstrates the value of time banking, because now I have, when I'm sick, I can go, Carol, I need soup, you know, and she delivers it.
Yes.
Or when something's up with her, then I can call her and go, I haven't seen you, haven't heard from you, what's going on? And the relationship was built because I was willing to ask, who can I have into my home to help me do this?
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
So that's
Let me share
profound.
something with you. I had to go see a lawyer because I had an injury, and I had to go to Tampa to address that court, blah, blah, blah. And when I was done, my car wouldn't start, and I was parked in Tampa, and so I had to walk, you know, to
long way.
get oil or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw a homeless man, or it looked like a homeless man, and he was under the stairs, like under the stairwell, because it had just rained on a church, and I just walked by him and ignored him, like a lot of us do. And then, but something stopped me. Something stopped me to come back and talk to him, you know. And so I came back and I'm like, hey, how you doing, you know? And he told me his story, you know. And so I said, well, let me have a prayer with you, you know. So I have this hand, and I prayed with him, and that was that, you know. And I left. And most people would think I like, oh, you know, they look at it more as a I'm okay, he's not.
Right.
You know, so
which
I
we're
walked
trying to
away,
destroy.
and something just took over me, like you know, seriously, I started crying, you know, and I was just like, because what I realized is that he had helped me more with just that encounter, than me him. Even though I gave him money, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
But we never know. We just never know.
And I realized how, you know, when you touch something, that something's touching you back.
Yes.
And that's more valuable than anything, you know. And if we don't get involved with our communities and with people,
with serving our neighbor,
then we're gonna live a very lonely life, and a probably very unhappy life.
Yeah, that is true.
So there you have it. Time Bank. thank you.
Thank you.
For this nice talk. Let me just say some things about Time Bank. You can find out more information at timebanks.org.
Yep.
Correct. And then it's stpete.timebanks.org.
You can just go to stpetetimebank.org. That's easier to remember.
Timebank.org. And so I can't see with the sun,
sunshine.
is it? But anyway, please share this video. Please share this video and follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, like Tiny Church on Facebook, Periscope, we're on Twitch TV. Join our YouTube channel. Go to our website to find more information. It's tiny-church.org. There you will find more information. I will put a timeline link.
A link?
A link to you. And also there's a donate button, so use it once in a while. This money will help us create the programs and maintain them to better our communities. It's 100% of the money goes. It's secure. Goes towards the programs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a secure transaction. It's through one of the major things, whatever. And anyway, thank you for being with us. This is BJ from Time Bank.
Thank you.
And thank you. And remember, Tiny Church, tiny steps to mighty miracles.
Oh wow, look at the clouds, man. Can you believe this? Can you believe things that have happened? I know it's real, but so still like a dream. Although you wear clothes of pain through your journey, through a door to heaven with hell the extreme. That's why I thank you, Lord, for my brother. I've got to thank you, Lord, for my friend. Lord, for my family. And every morning that we rise again, now our hearts can see more than they used to. Although it might be hard for it to sink in, you went to the gate for your message from God. Got back in time for us to see you again. That's why I thank you, Lord, for my brother. I've got to thank you, Lord, for my friend. Oh, I've got to thank you, Lord, for my family. Every morning that we rise again. Oh, thank you, Lord. Well, I thank you, Lord, for my brother. I've got to thank you, Lord, for my friend. I've got to thank you, Lord, for my family. Every morning that we rise again. Oh, so glad you're in the house, bud.